Tonight's top story, the disgraced royal, the former Prince Andrew, brother of King Charles III, is feeling the Epstein heat. The former Prince Andrew has been arrested amidst the Epstein scandal. He is now the first royal to be arrested for public misconduct. Andrew accused of having abused his public office in alleged emails that he exchanged with Epstein and his involvement with the late sexual offender, man whose name has now sent shockwaves across the world for the manner in which his pedophilia and sexual offences have exposed a network of the rich and powerful. King Charles, under pressure, has vowed full support and cooperation. The British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has said no one is above the law. But as of now, Prince Andrew facing the heat like no other British royal ever has. Joining me now, James Marlowe, broadcast journalist, joins me live from London. Also joined by Ashish Ray, author and senior journalist. I appreciate you joining us there, Mr. Marlowe. How is this playing out? Is this the biggest crisis in a way that the royal family has faced? A real loss of credibility and face?
Since 1647, so that's certainly before my time, when King Charles I was arrested. And before that, it was Elizabeth who had her sister Mary arrested. And that was way back in 1554. So now we're dealing with something brand new in 2026, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. And it's a huge, astonishing fall from grace. He was arrested at just after 8 a.m. local time here in London on the Sandringham estate, which is just west of the city of London. Police came to his property, or at least the property that King Charles has given him temporarily, because, of course, he was stripped of all of his different ranks and different titles, and even of his property. He was taken away by police. He was given a chair. He was given access to a toilet. His fingerprints were taken. And as we understand, he is still being questioned right now by police. Police have 24 hours by law to hold him, ask him questions, continue their investigation. And if they do not come up with anything to charge him with, then they have to let him go. If, however, the police feel that they are close to getting some type of evidence from him, they can request an extra 4 days.
I just want to bring in also Ashish Ray at this point, because Ashish, this has been playing in the public domain in Britain and across the world for a long time. Prince Andrew's already been stripped of his royal title and some of his royal entitlements. Why now? What has happened suddenly? Now there's talk. The misconduct charge was there for the longest time. Now it's being spoken of in a way that has led to his arrest. What has suddenly changed?
Well, you're right, Rajdeep, that it's been a long time coming, because the story first broke in 2010. And thereafter, there have been many allegations. There have been stories floating around. And at the end of the day, what has happened is this. This is not so much a sex story. It is about Mountbatten-Windsor sharing sensitive information with Jeffrey Epstein, because he was, don't forget, an ambassador for trade for Britain for a number of years. And in that capacity, he had confidential information. And therefore, this misconduct in public office is what this allegation, or at least suspicion at this moment, is all about. He can be held for up to 96 hours, by the way, but that would need a permission from a magistrate for that to happen. It's a remarkable story for the brother of the head of state of Britain, of the monarch of Britain, to be arrested in this manner without the king being informed about it. It shows that the rule of law can be supreme.
I'm going to come to that point in a moment, Ashish, in the Indian context. But Mr. Marlowe, What is the general reaction you're finding among the public? Is the public fully supportive of the fact that a member of the royal family is not above the law, and therefore, in a strange way, it might even restore some of the lost credibility of the royal family?
Absolutely. Let me just clarify what it was I just said as well, and that is that police are holding him for 24 hours without any magistrate. If they do need to continue speaking with him, that's when they apply for the extra 4 days. In terms of the British reaction, indeed the international reaction, I think people are still getting around it. And United States people have been waking up on the East Coast, Mid Coast, West Coast as well, to this astonishing information. And they will also be looking to put the boot in as such to see what it is that they can do. Yes, to answer your question, it does prove that nobody is above the law except one person. There is just one person in the UK that is above the law who cannot be prosecuted, and that is the King. So when you have something like the Crown Prosecution Service that actually brings cases in a court of law with lawyers, etc., bringing them against a defendant, that is the Crown in the name of the King, which is Prince Charles. So what inevitably you may have, depending upon what unfolds in the coming days and weeks, is that the King, the Crown, will actually, according to the Crown Prosecution Service, let me get this right, would be actually prosecuting his own brother, who, by the way, is 66 years old today, who was born in Buckingham Palace. He was born being able, with all that privilege and that ability, surrounded by royalty, to end up in a police cell with just access to a toilet and a chair right now.
Fascinating. But, you know, Ashish, the point you made, no one is above the law. Here is the King's brother being arrested, belatedly some would say, but arrested nevertheless. And as I put out, various names across the world have lost their jobs or been forced out of jobs because of their involvement, alleged involvement with Jeffrey Epstein and the sexual offenses that were conducted. In India, on the other hand, we've seen a veil of silence. A couple of names have been mentioned for having email exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein, Hardeep Puri, the union minister, Anil Ambani, the businessman, but obviously no proof of misconduct in terms of the fact that they were not in public office in the manner that Andrew was. But do you believe it's time to rip off this veil of silence anywhere in the world? And remember, there are a number of unredacted files that are still not out that run into thousands and millions of pages.
Well, first of all, let me say this, that Jeffrey Epstein was bad news. He was not just corrupt. He was not just dealing with underaged women, but he was possibly dabbling with intelligence services. Now, I don't know Anil Ambani. I've never met him, but I've known Hardeep Puri for many, many years. And I must say, I'm very disappointed because he belongs to the elite Indian Foreign Service. He could do better because his judgment is certainly being called into question today. I expect better from Hardeep because he has been a fine diplomat during his career. Controversial at certain times, though, but nevertheless, he belongs to the elite service and he could do the right thing by setting a good example.
Okay, I've heard both of you, and I think we've heard you both loud and clear. Today, in many ways, is a historic day when someone who is right at the very top, or was at the right at the very top of the royal family, should be arrested on his birthday in this manner. Mr. Marlow, Ashish Ray, for joining me here tonight at the top of the news, thank you very much. Now, I want to go to a very special guest because the Epstein case involves dozens and dozens of young women who allegedly were the victims of what Jeffrey Epstein did at his exotic island and the sexual offenses and pedophilia charges that eventually led to his conviction. I'm joined there by Reena Obe from New York. Reena, you are a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein and his sexual wrongdoings. I appreciate you joining us. When you heard the news a little while ago that a member of the British royal family, formerly Prince Andrew, arrested for his roles in dealing with Jeffrey Epstein, what was your first reaction? Does it give you a sense of vindication of justice? Dare I say a little bit of closure?
didn't give me a sense of closure, but I feel that this is just a beginning. It sets an example for what should be done here in the United States. I feel that our government here in the US is not taking any action. All they're doing is denying accountability. And to have someone like the former Prince Andrew, get arrested for his ties to this entire case, and they're alleged. These are allegations, obviously, but he is mentioned in those files. They've been talking about him. He's had a long-standing relationship with Epstein, and I feel that this is one step forward into what I expect to see going forward with everyone else who's mentioned, whether their names appear or they're redacted. I actually want to see all the redacted names get unredacted.
The names that have come out, Reena, is of some of the most wealthy and powerful people in the world, Reena, who have been named in the Epstein files. And there's been a sense that many of these people, because of the power they wield or their wealth, they've gotten away too easily. You use the word accountability. Do you believe that's critical, that however powerful or wealthy you are, you will have to be held accountable if you were part of Epstein's network of sexual offenses? That's the message that's coming out today.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who's named in those files needs to be questioned under oath as if they haven't provided testimony. And I feel that there's a big separation of class. There's a class system here, and the privileged, they get away with almost anything and everything. They have the means to afford the best legal teams, and they're able to use every loophole that exists in US law or international law. And they're able to get away with it. They get minimum sentencing or slap on the wrist, or altogether charges are dropped. There has been no accountability so far. I do see there are a lot of European nations who are taking action, and they're taking action immediately. I want to see that here.
So you want to see action in the United States against those who allegedly were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. But all these names, Reena, who seemingly had this very special relationship with Epstein, many of them visited his so-called exotic island where these alleged sexual crimes took place. All of them, in a sense, are enablers of what Epstein was doing. And if I may ask you, did they, from what you saw as a witness, did they include politicians, royals, businessmen? Were they all deeply involved in this operation? Is that true? Or were they just bystanders?
I personally didn't meet any of those people. I have heard some of their names while I was around him. I've met one of the billionaires that are mentioned in these files, and he's mentioned a lot, actually. There are a lot of photographs of him. Are they enablers? If they saw something, if they witness it, they are definitely an enabler. But we need to ask every single person under oath, what did you see? What did you witness? Whether they lie or tell the truth, and then back it up with evidence.
May I ask you this, Reena? What did you see? As someone who is a survivor, I want to ask you this, because you've spoken out. I've heard your interviews about the psychological manipulation that Epstein was involved in. Can you tell for our viewers here in India the kind of tactics that this person, who seemed to have this network of rich and powerful around him, using young women, can you tell us how it affected you and what exactly he would do?
Well, he was a raging narcissist, number one, and he used different forms of abuse. It wasn't just physical abuse, it was psychological, emotional. There was a lot of devaluation, and that has a very traumatic effect. Sometimes it takes decades to recover from this. A lot of the other survivors, they share this experience. I'm not certain if they understand what narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder entails and what it does, but the abuse, it's very damaging, and it's very easy to get manipulated and lied to. Like, this person was a complete psychopath, sociopath, who was able to use everything, in order to lure people in, and not just the survivors, but everyone in his network.
Right.
They have fallen, I don't want to call them victims, they've been entrapped in this ring that he created, and whether they committed any crimes or not, that's
right.
it just happened. It's part of the nature of dealing with someone who's a narcissist. If they go down, he wouldn't go down by himself.
Can I ask you this, though? Donald Trump, United States President, do you believe he too has much to answer for? He, of course, keeps on denying his links with Epstein, says he's been given the all clear. But the truth is that he seemingly also knew Jeffrey Epstein. Should he be asked to come on, should he be also put on oath as a witness in the Epstein case to tell the world what exactly he knew and what was his role or his involvement and how much he knew about what was happening?
Well, he definitely knew a lot. He definitely saw a lot. His name appears with every single contact number. His children's names appear in that phone book. I think he absolutely is a witness. Should he testify under oath? I think he should. Will he testify under oath? Probably not, at least not while he's in office. Perhaps maybe once this term is over, they may be able to subpoena him. I don't know how the U.S. laws work in regards to subpoenaing a sitting president and having them testify under oath in front of the oversight committee or a congressional hearing.
Reena, when I asked you at the outset how Andrew and others were involved, they've, of course, denied the allegations, but more and more details are coming out about how the former royal may even have shared data with Epstein, confidential data. From your perspective, when did you know that Jeffrey Epstein was someone involved in this criminality? How long did it take you to wake up to the reality of what Jeffrey Epstein was all about?
I would say probably during the trip that I was in Florida, when he disclosed certain things, and I saw, the way he lived and being trapped in that house with no means, no transportation, no money, and then being threatened with physical harm. It kept me silent for decades.
You mentioned that you were trapped. Are you telling me that you were kept inside the house, threatened there in Florida, virtually under lock and key? Is that what he would do with women?
Well, I wouldn't say virtually under lock and key, but I had no transportation. I didn't have money. There was another girl there. Others were able to freely go in and out of the estate. I didn't really know where I was. It was my first time in that part of the country. So, and then he disclosed some of the things that he did overseas and then threatened me with physical harm if I ever told anyone.
But some of the people who've been named, Reena, in the Epstein files continue to carry on with their public functions as if nothing happened, almost as if they did nothing wrong. These rich and famous travel the world. Some of them continue to remain in office. Do you believe, therefore, that the arrest of Andrew must send out the message to each and every one of them that this is not a normal case, this is a violation of human rights, of human dignity, and each and every one of them must be brought to justice for true closure for survivors like you?
Absolutely. Anyone who's named, who's associated, needs to be investigated or at least given the chance to speak. There are 10 co-conspirators. There needs to be a full transparency into what they did. And in terms of closure, I don't think I'll get closure until we find out what remains of this operation, because I believe it still exists. I believe they're still doing it. I believe he's not the only one who was involved. I mean, obviously there are 10 other people. You know, are they still doing it? I suspect they are. But that's another allegation, and I don't want to say, you know, absolutely they're doing it. We need to find out. We need to investigate them.
You suspect that the sexual offenses committed are still going on with other co-conspirators, but there's been, as we've seen, pressure in Britain that's forced Andrew out. There have been allegations there that the royal family was trying to sweep this under the carpet. In the US, there are allegations that the Trump administration is putting pressure to ensure that the president's name is not there in any redacted file. Do you believe these powerful forces continue to try to bury the case?
Well, there are over 2 million files they're not releasing right now, and I want to know what's in it. So we don't have the answers to that until we see the remainder of the 2 million, which now, you know, the Attorney General is claiming she'll never release them after promising to release all the information.
Reena, I'm going to leave it there. I really appreciate you taking the time off early that morning in New York and talking to us. But this is a case that has global reverberations. I thank you for joining me, and I hope you get closure and justice. Now, amidst the fallout from those Epstein files, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who's also finding himself in the eye of a storm after several mentions in the documents, today finally withdrew from the Global AI Impact Summit in the national capital. The Gates Foundation announced that Bill Gates would not deliver his keynote address at Bharat Mandapam. The foundation said the decision was made after careful consideration and emphasized it would continue its work in India. The foundation was represented at the summit by Ankur Vora, president of the Africa and India offices of the Gates Foundation. Aishwarya Paliwal joins us. Aishwarya, for the last few days, there was all this talk, will he, won't he? He had gone to Andhra Pradesh, met Chandrababu Naidu, but it seems eventually the center decided they didn't want a fresh controversy over Bill Gates addressing the AI summit while the Epstein files are such a hot potato across the world.
Well, definitely. You know, let me tell you what exactly has happened in the past 24 hours. There were conversations that, in fact, were taking place, but the government understood that this is a case that is not over yet. We are seeing how, not just in India, but across the world, action is being taken. And Bill Gates, being the kind of high-profile person that he is, you know, if we speak about Microsoft, yes, Microsoft is one of the biggest players. So Microsoft was and still is a part of AI that we are seeing happening here in the national capital. But with regards to Bill Gates, the decision was taken that we are still seeing the case carrying on, and we could see some things coming out in the future as well. That's the reason why we saw that the government was very, very clear that it is better if he stays away, and careful thought was being given to it. That's why we did see, Rajdeep, the official statement coming out just hours before we saw Prime Minister Modi at there. So the main reason why we are seeing this is because the government understood that this is a case which will have implications in the future as well. That's why this decision was taken.
Okay, Aishwarya Paliwal for joining me now. Remember, today at the AI Summit, all eyes were on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Prime Minister delivered his speech, setting the tone for where India stands when it comes to putting the country on the world map as a leader of AI initiatives, and how industry titans now are openly embracing the need for India to play a greater role in the AI race. Listen in to what happened today at the key day at the Global AI Summit.
It's really a treat to be here in India, and it's incredible to see.
2.5 years ago, Sam Altman had dismissed India's advancement in artificial intelligence as hopeless. He had simply rejected the idea that India could build a competitive foundation model on a modest budget. Today, the OpenAI CEO is obviously a changed man.
More than 100 million people use ChatGPT every week. More than a third of them are students. India is also the fastest growing market now for Codex, our coding agent that works to help people develop software faster and better. India, the world's largest democracy, is well positioned to lead in AI, not just to build it, but to shape it and decide what our future is going to look like. And it's important to move quickly.
And he's putting money where his mouth is, launching the OpenAI for India initiative. This involves investments to power India's sovereign AI infrastructure, enterprise AI adoption, and upskilling initiatives through education partnerships. The company has also announced that India will play a crucial role in the global Stargate project, a $500 billion AI infrastructure project announced last year. The Tata Group has also announced a major partnership with OpenAI.
I think we have announced a partnership where we will bring 100 megawatts capacity initially for our state-of-the-art data center, and it will scale over a period of time to 1 gigawatt. Okay. And we are building a lot of agentic AI-based industry solutions, sure, which we will leverage OpenAI's.
And while Sam Altman and Dario Amodei, the other big AI guru, may not see eye to eye or even agree to hold hands, they do seem to agree on the importance of India on the AI firmament. Anthropic has announced a deal with Infosys to deliver enterprise AI solutions across telecommunications, financial services, manufacturing, and software development. Microsoft, which is advancing its co-pilot GenAI, is looking at investing a whopping $50 billion in India and other South Asian nations.
India has an absolutely central role to play in these questions and challenges, both on the side of the opportunities and on the side of the risks. As a sign of our commitment, we just this week opened an office in Bengaluru and hired Reena Obe, who has spent 3 decades building businesses in India as our managing director for Anthropic India. We've also announced partnerships with major Indian enterprises this week, including Infosys and others.
That's why we at Microsoft announced yesterday morning that we're on pace to spend $50 billion by the end of this decade to bring AI to the global south. And of all the countries in which we are investing, India, not surprisingly, is one of the largest.
Meanwhile, Huang Jensen, the brain behind the world's most valuable company, NVIDIA, may have pulled out from the AI summit at the last moment, but his deal makers were active in Delhi. L&T will be building a gigawatt-scale AI factory infrastructure with NVIDIA to provide AI-ready capacity for high-density, next-generation workloads.
जिम्मेवारी के साथ कहता हूं, गर्व के साथ कहता हूं, हमें भय नहीं, भारत को एआई में भाग्य दिखता है, भारत को एआई में भविष्य दिखता है. Tech leaders.
Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
And I spoke to Hemant, Taneja, CEO, General Catalyst, one of the venture capitalist companies that's investing majorly in the AI sector, as to whether India could play a major role or not in the AI revolution. This was at the India Today AI Summit. Listen in to what Mr. Taneja had to say. Hemant Taneja, CEO, General Catalyst, a Paschim Vihar boy, as he reminded me, now of course in the Bay Area, and someone whose company has, as a global venture capital firm, invested in more than 800 businesses, including crucially in the area of applied AI. And we're going to focus on applied AI in a moment, but first, welcome, Hemant, back to your roots in a way. But I want to start by asking the big questions that's dominated a lot of the conversation globally, in Davos more recently. Is AI to be still seen as a bubble, or is it the future that's already here? Let's settle this once and for all.
Well, as I always say, bubbles are very good for us. I think what bubbles do is they mobilize talent and capital behind important problems, important technological areas. So I think in a lot of ways, if you think about it with that perspective, we are in an AI bubble. But in the sense that there's so much investment going into it, there are some areas where there'll be some money lost, but on the other side of what we're going through now in a few years, you'll see we'll build some incredible companies and we will change the world with it.
The reason I asked you that is because surely there must come a time that beyond the hype, companies like you all will demand profits. That it's not about only AI foundational models, it's about creating products that will give profit. Are we therefore entering this post-hype phase now where people are getting real and saying, look, you're going to have to show us products where AI will actually deliver hard revenues and profits?
So look, I'll separate the AI investments into two categories. One is there's continued investment into research. And the whole idea is that the token prediction models, the language models, they will only take us so far from an intelligence perspective, and that you'll need fundamentally new breakthroughs. So there's a lot of capital going into that particular category, which is hard to assess. When is that going to become a business? But the promise of it is why capital keeps going into those projects. But for most of it, which to me is about the applied AI layer, I really don't think that we're looking for proof points and that they're not showing up. I would actually argue 2025 was the year that diffusion started. And the whole investment case of these hundreds of billions of dollars being invested in the compute infrastructure is all about, will you actually transpose labor spent into productivity, into AI productivity? And you started to see evidence of that in enterprises in meaningful ways late last year. So I do think you're going to start seeing the profit margins come as a result as well, because now you're doing really high value work with AI.
Give me an example. Give me examples of that, because applied AI itself, the specific areas where you believe that AI will now turn into revenue, into a legitimate revenue model. You are existing companies to make them AI ready. Is that the way for the future? Or is it about ensuring that you create new products in specific industries? And if so, which are those specific industries where applied AI will be transformational?
So look, AI is a transformative force. And the biggest value is about applying it to enterprises. So the way I think about is the value getting created or not is look at every department and think about what is AI enabling to transform those departments in a business. So if you follow the news, you would say over the last few months, you're seeing a lot in the programming department, in the coding department, with Anthropic and the cloud models. The continued momentum in the advancement of that technology is really stunning. You're gone from, can these models help you write faster, to they're actually generating pieces of software for you. Right? I think that's a pretty profound implication. So rather than, is this a software tool and therefore a software budget for an engineer, you're actually getting work done that teams of engineers would do in a matter of days and weeks as opposed to months and years. That's high value. So I think that if you think about what's the margin in that, you could actually charge for those things a lot more. Imagine there's a version of that going on in customer support and customer success broadly. There's a version of that going on in sales and marketing. Every department is going through that kind of a transformation.
But if I were to specifically hone down areas where you believe applied AI will be truly transformative, to give you examples, healthcare in India is seen as a huge opportunity out there. Education is seen as a... Do you look at those areas, or do you look at existing companies and see how can I transform those companies?
So I think, let me think about the altitude of what you just said. Step one is to transform the enterprises, right? If you can make them AI native, then they get unleashed to do all of what you're saying. If an enterprise becomes AI native, then in its own industry, it can go from being operationally efficient to having an offering of abundance for their customers. So if you can actually create an AI native hospital that has not only nurses that are taking care of patients in person, but also agents that are on the phone that effectively cost, a deflationary way, essentially to zero over time, you would have a free nurse that takes care of everybody, right? So the transformation is only going to happen when you take your enterprise and transform, and then start to imagine how your offerings should be fundamentally different. And I sort of use the framework around abundance to take care of your customers and constituents.
The reason I also asked you is because India's experience has been we produce a large, strong class of engineers, a large pool of engineers. But we are producing fewer AI product companies. And let's be honest, I mean, the Chinese and the Americans have been way ahead when it comes to innovation at the moment and enterprise. So what are we missing here? Are we missing capital, risk appetite, or product thinking? If we are to also join this engine of applied AI, what does India need to do?
I'm very optimistic on India. I would say India is behind when it comes to development of infrastructure. That's going to be a hard compete and try to be a leader. But the way we think about our investment landscape, we say there's the infrastructure and models, but then there is the application of AI. And every single company that is doing really well in the US at the applied AI layer, you know what they have as a core skill set? They know how to engage with customers in what's now called forward deployed engineering capabilities. India's IT industry has matured actually into that. The workforces that you have here are actually pretty good at it. They just need to be applied towards going to these customers with the AI tool set now versus your typical digital transformation tool set, and go solve their problems with AI and create these next generation companies. I do think that's going to get unlocked and create some global companies that start right here with that kind of a mindset.
No, so do we piggyback in a way on what the Americans have done or what the Chinese have done?
I think you leverage
and become the sort of back, famously 25 years ago, we became the outsourcing capital over time. Is that the model that we take, or do we encourage Indians to innovate and compete in the product space?
Look, I think the definition of products is actually changing in terms of what it means in AI. You have technologies that it's hard to understand what the capabilities of the models themselves are. So what do you really build on top? And so the products that get built are almost sort of thought about in the context of the problem for your customers versus you have a minimum viable product that you can go sell over and over again. So when you sort of grapple with that and understand these are the capabilities of AI, it doesn't need to be a discrete product. It needs to understand the problems and solve them structurally. The whole innovation landscape changes, and the talent base here is actually well positioned to go do that and create these next generation companies for different industries that are using that tool set.
But when you as a global venture capital firm look at Indian companies, what are the kind of elements that you're looking at when you decide, I am going to invest in this specific company? When you're looking at applied AI from your perspective, what kind of, are you looking at companies which will essentially scale up in the shortest possible time? And if you can give me an example.
I think a couple of things. One is, when it comes to India in particular, because AI is deflationary, how to bring capabilities in healthcare, in education, to the masses is actually going to be a really interesting opportunity. If you can solve it for 1 billion people with all the complexities that lie here in the US, in India, you are going to be well positioned to solve those problems globally. So I think that's a place where, just like India did with UPI and Aadhaar, the innovations that leapfrog the world, I think you're going to see some innovations that come out that way. The second thing is, can you unleash the AI, the technology talent here, give them access to these tools, make the use of AI pervasive, and then go build globally, much like India has started to do in the SaaS world. I just think the paradigms change. SaaS is not where you're going to create the most valuable companies, because AI can do that work for you. Well, then let's use AI and go solve problems for customers with that new technology platform versus the older metaphors.
Good to have you here and set the stage for what you believe is the future. It's no longer a bubble, as you said it. That argument is more or less over. It is here, and we've got to, in a way, live with it, and more importantly, use it to our advantage. Hemant, for joining us here. Hemant Taneja, CEO, General Catalyst. Thank you so much for joining me here at the India Today AI Summit. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Let's turn to a story that should wake us all up. It's been 10 months since the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam. But the loved ones of one of the victims of the terror attack, Santosh Jagdale, are still waiting for the government's promise of a job to be fulfilled. Take a look at tonight's special report.
Ten months have passed since terror struck the serene valleys of Bengal. Santosh Jagdale's life was cut short in a brutal attack, and today the promise of security for his loved ones remains unfulfilled. The Maharashtra government had announced 50 lakh rupees compensation and a government job for the victim's family. His daughter Asavari Jagdale waits, hoping the government's assurances will finally become reality.
They should have provided me the job long back, but it's more than 10 months, and every month I was assured that by next 15 days it will be done, by next 15 days it will be done. But unfortunately, in all this process, we didn't get any response, a proper response, or we didn't get to know where exactly my file was.
Despite repeated visits to the Pune Municipal Corporation and Mantralay, no appointment letter has been issued. Officials discussed offering her a Class 2 administrative post, considering her MBA and qualifications, but the file remains pending.
I was in contact with a lot of people, which include the OSD PS of Deputy CM Eknath Shindeji and also CM office. But all I got in response was that we are working on it. It is under process. It is in Mantralaya on XYZ's desk.
Pune Municipal Commissioner Ramal Kishore Ram says the case is being treated as a special matter, but final approval rests with the ministry.
She is a very well-educated girl and she can be given a very good job. As per the existing rules, we can give her class 3 or class 4 job. But she is not interested for class 3 or class 4 job. So for getting class 1 or class 2 job, there should be a approval from the government, state government.
Now Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde has directed officials to expedite the process. But for Jagdare family, 10 months after losing their sole breadwinner, the wait continues for justice and for a promise to turn into reality. With Omkar Bable, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let me turn from there to our Get Real India story. An unacceptable tragedy in UP's Gorakhpur. More than a dozen people have fallen victim to a botched up cataract surgery, with at least 9 of them losing their eyesight. Take a look at Get Real India.
They went in hoping to restore their eyesight, but came back to a lifetime of darkness. This is the story of more than a dozen patients who became victims of a botched cataract surgery in Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh. The incident took place at New Rajesh High Tech Hospital in Sikriganj. On the 1st of February, an eye camp was organized with 30 patients underwent cataract surgery. 18 patients developed serious eye infections. Many complained of severe pain, bleeding and pus formation.
मोतियाबिंद के ऑपरेशन के बाद आंखों में इंफेक्शन जिससे 9 लोगों की आंखें बाहर निकालनी पड़ी और 9 लोगों की आंखों की रोशनी चली गई, यानी कुल 18 लोगों के साथ बहुत बड़ा खिलवाड़ हो गया। यानी मोतियाबिंद के ऑपरेशन के नाम पर सब कुछ गंवा बैठे।
Despite treatment, 9 patients eventually had to undergo surgery to remove the affected eye. Victims allege that complications began almost immediately after the cataract surgery.
तो आँख का ऑपरेशन हुआ, वहाँ से आई तो इनका पानी जो है बंद ही नहीं हुआ आँख से। उनका जो है आँख बहुत ज़्यादा खराब हो गया था, तो डॉक्टर लास्ट पोजीशन में उनको जो है बताएं कि आँख निकालेंगे तभी ये बच सकती हैं।
तो वहाँ पे आँख का ऑपरेशन करवाई थी, तो वहाँ पे उनका ऑपरेशन हुआ। फिर उसके बाद ऑपरेशन होने के बाद शाम तक वो घर पे आई। फिर रात होते होते वो उनका बहुत दर्द उठा आँख से। दिल्ली एम्स में ले गए हैं, तो वहाँ उनका 2 दिन भर्ती करवाया वहाँ पे। फिर तीसरे दिन में मतलब उनका आँख पूरा निकाल दिया गया है।
The hospital's eye care department is sealed and a magisterial inquiry ordered.
तो तत्काल प्रभाव से हमने हॉस्पिटल को बंद करवा दिया है, सील कर दिया है और इसमें एक मजिस्ट्रियल इंक्वायरी सेटअप कर दी है। 1 या 2 दिन में उसे इंक्वायरी रिपोर्ट भी आ जाएगी, उससे आगे की कार्रवाई की जाएगी और कहीं भी कोई दोषी होगा तो उसके हिसाब से उनका रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल और अग्रिम कार्रवाई भी की जाएगी।
A district level committee has also been formed. The health department has taken statements of patients and doctors.
अभी फिलहाल हम लोगों ने वहाँ पर सारे चिकित्सीय कार्य बंद कर दिए हैं और उनको एक पूरी तरह से रोक लगा दी गई है कि जब तक ये पूरी घटना या जो भी आगे होगा उसके बाद ही आप इस पे करेंगे।
For now, the hospital remains sealed and the inquiry report is expected shortly. A report that could determine whether medical negligence caused 18 people to lose their sight. With Gajendra Tripathi from Gorakhpur, Bureau Report, India Today.
Every time we do a Get Real India story, I hope that there are people out there who realize that we live in a society which is deeply unequal. That all the glitz that we see at times the photo ops and the belief that India has moved ahead and is moving towards becoming the third largest economy in the world. While that may be true and the glass is half full, the reminder is that there are parts of the country where the glass is half empty, and it's those parts that we believe our Get Real India stories attempt to focus public attention on. Because those are the stories that we hope will make a difference to the lives of those affected. Governance is critical in a way to ensure a better India. Okay, enough of the sermonizing. I'm going to give you a good news today story. The Jammu and Kashmir cricket team has beaten Bengal to reach the Ranji Trophy final for the first time. That happened yesterday. They are now one step away from scripting history. This is truly a good news today story. We'll play that package in a moment. But before that, I want to leave you with our image of the day. An awkward episode unfolding at the AI summit when several global technology leaders joined Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a photo opportunity. Sam Altman and Dario Amodei, who run two of the world's most closely watched AI companies, appeared briefly unsure whether to shake hands, clasp arms, throw their arms up in air, or simply pose given their friction in recent times. While everyone held each other's hands as they held them high, the two ended up simply clasping fists in the air. Didn't hold each other's hands.
Thank you, tech leaders.
So that was the image of the day. The global tech leaders with Prime Minister Modi at the AI summit. Now, it's been a summit where we've, of course, seen plenty of action, some mishaps, but plenty also to celebrate in terms of the fact that India has become the first country of the global south to get all these leaders to come together on one platform. Let me lead you, though, as I promised, leave you with our good news today story, Jammu and Kashmir entering the Ranji finals for the first time. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Celebrations on the field and in the dressing room after Jammu and Kashmir beat Bengal to reach the Ranji Trophy final for the first time. Abdul Samad and Vanshik Sharma ensuring an easy win by 6 wickets.
जितनी भी मेहनत उसने की, उसका रंग, उसका फजल, उसका वो मौजा मिल गया. बहुत मेहनत की आज तक आकिब ने, बचपन से ही क्रिकेट का शौकीन था और ये नतीजा और मेहनत उसकी रंग लाई, उनकी रंग लाई और आज तक इस मकाम पे पहुंच गई.
पहली बार हमारी कश्मीर सेमीफाइनल में पहुंची, ये हमारे लिए फख्र की बात है, खासकर जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के लिए. पूरी हमारे जो कश्मीर है इधर उतना स्ट्रक्चर नहीं होता है खेलने के, तो भी आगे ने बहुत मेहनत की है, हमें बहुत फख्र.
उसका यही गोल था कि जब भी हमारे साथ मीटिंग करता था, यार हम रणजी ट्रॉफी फाइनल, हमारा गोल है रणजी ट्रॉफी टीम को फाइनल में पहुंचाना है. मगर आज मेरे को लग रहा है मिथुन मनास और ब्रिगेडियर अनिल गुप्ता का ये जो मकसद था कि टीम को फाइनल में पहुंचाएंगे, वो मकसद पूरा हुआ.
68 इयर्स के बाद उनने प्रवेश किया है फाइनल में, तो बहुत ही खुशकिस्मत की बात है. मेरे ख्याल से ये जो है आज का दिन है क्रिकेट का सबसे अच्छा दिन है कश्मीरी के लिए, होल जेंट के लिए.
तरह से आकिब नबी ने हर एक मैच में परफॉर्म किया है, 4 विकेट्स 5 विकेट्स, और आज बंगाल को हरा के जम्मू कश्मीर में पूरी मतलब खुशी का माहौल है आज.
जी, कश्मीर के लिए खुशी की बात है. उन्होंने पहली बार फाइनल में प्रवेश किया है, तो उन्होंने अच्छी मेहनत की है, उसके बदौलत वो अभी फाइनल में उन्होंने प्रवेश किया.
The team is gelling well. Every
player knows what his role is, and most importantly, they have match winners who are in brilliant form right now. So Jammu and Kashmir really scripting history, and now just one match away from bringing Ranji Trophy to Jammu and Kashmir for the first time. With cameraperson Tariq Lone, Mir Farid, Srinagar for India Today.